All right, so we are annotating the Black Cat based on our standard RL 1.2. Determine a theme or central idea of a text and analyze its development over the course of the text, including its relationship to the characters, setting, plot. And we are also working to provide an objective summary of the text. Like we started doing yesterday, we are coming up with our unknown words. We're highlighting those in green or whatever color you chose. It's okay if it's a different color. We're providing the definitions to the unknown words on the left-hand side. We're also going to be noting potential themes in purple. We may not have done a lot of those yet just because we're still towards the beginning and the theme hasn't been fully developed yet. We're highlighting any connections to the telltale heart in red, and then we're providing objective summaries on the right-hand side in blue. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and scroll down to where we left off yesterday. And would someone like to jump on and give us a quick summary of what's happened so far in our story? What's happening with our narrator so far? Thank you, Anjali. Yeah, so what we can say, we didn't get to do the objective summary for this second paragraph right here. So let's go ahead and add in that objective summary. And Anjali just referred to that. So remember, I went up to insert text box and then draw text box. And I'm going to reduce the size and make it blue. So we can say that from childhood, our narrator was made fun of for liking animals and being sensitive. We can also say that he likes animals because they love you unconditionally, right? He says there's something unselfish and self-sacrificing about the love of animals. So they love you unconditionally. He also makes a claim here at the end of that paragraph when he says, who has had the frequent occasion to test the paltry friendship and gossamer fidelity of mere man. So he makes a claim here, and I'm going to add on and say that he thinks that humans are conditional with their friendship and love, and animals are loyal and faithful. That's what he's referring to when he says gossamer fidelity. I married early and was happy to find in my wife a disposition not uncongenial with my own. Observing my partiality for domestic pets, she lost no opportunity of procuring those of the most agreeable kind. We had birds, goldfish, a fine dog, rabbits, a small monkey, and a cat. Are there any words we need to highlight in this paragraph? Thank you, Destiny. Yeah, we can definitely highlight uncongenial. Are there any other words? Do we know what disposition means? Okay, so let's highlight disposition too. All right, uncongenial means not friendly or pleasant, kind of like rude. Also can mean unsuitable, doesn't really fit well. Disposition is someone's personality or character traits. And then on our objective summary side, we can say that his wife also likes pets. Pretty simple there for that small paragraph. And then cat is italicized. This latter, so latter is like the last one, which means cat, that was italicized. This latter was a remarkably large and beautiful animal, entirely black and sagacious to an astonishing degree. In speaking of his intelligence, my wife, who at heart was not a little tinctured with superstition, made frequent allusion to the ancient popular notion which regarded all black cats as witches in disguise. Not that she was ever serious upon this point, and I mention the matter at all for no better reason than that it happens just now to be remembered. What other words can we highlight in this paragraph? Yep, tinctured. What else did we highlight? Thank you. Kieran. All right. So we can say this word was also in the Telltale Heart. Does anybody remember this word from the Telltale Heart and what it meant? Hi, Elijah. I can hear you. Yeah, thank you. It means wise, intelligent, and our narrator in the Telltale Heart kept describing himself with this word and others that meant he was smart. So now he's using this word to describe the black cat. He's saying that the black cat is large, beautiful, smart. And then you can also infer when he says this word in speaking of his intelligence, right? So that's talking about his intelligence. And then tinctured means that it means like a small amount. So when he says who at heart was not a little tinctured with superstition, that essentially means like given with a small amount given with. Trying to think of the best way to describe that for our definition. Not a little tinctured with superstition, not a little. So almost like a notion, a thought, a quality, a small amount of. So like a synonym would be a hint of. That's the word I was trying to think of. Not really a hint like a clue, but when someone says, oh, a hint of this, like a small amount, or a trace of, that might be a better word, trace. We can then go on to say that in this paragraph says that the cat is smart. The narrator also refers to the superstition that black cats are witches in disguise. But he does not seem to believe this superstition. Pluto, this was the cat's name, was my favorite pet and playmate. I alone fed him, and he attended me wherever I went about the house. It was even with difficulty that I could prevent him from following me through the streets. Our friendship lasted in this manner for several years, during which my general temperament and character Through the instrumentality of the fiend intemperance, had, I blush to confess it, experienced a radical alteration for the worse. I grew day by day more moody, more irritable, more regardless of the feelings of others. I suffered myself to use intemperate language to my wife. At length, I even offered her personal violence. My pets, of course, were made to feel the change in my disposition. I not only neglected but ill used them. For Pluto, however, I still retained sufficient regard to restrain me from maltreating him, as I made no scruple of maltreating the rabbits, the monkey, or even the dog, but when by accident or through affection they came in my way. But my disease grew upon me, for what disease is like alcohol? And at length even Pluto, who was now becoming old and consequently somewhat peevish, even Pluto began to experience the effects of my ill temper. Who would like to let me know what words you highlighted in this paragraph? Thank you, Destiny.
This is Sophia, and I'm intemperate.
Thank you, Sophia. Intemperate.
This is Anjali, and I highlighted scruple.
Scruple. Did anyone highlight maltreating?
I did.
Okay, thank you.
This is Nkosi, and I highlighted used.
Thank you, Nkosi. All right. So we have intemperance. We also have ill-used, maltreating, and scruple. So for intemperance, you have to think about the prefix in means not. So not temperate or temperance. And temperance is traditionally used as someone that is like kind. If you think about temperament or disposition, it's also an older term that Edgar Allan Poe was referring to. Temperance at the time was also seen as like a synonym for abstinence from drinking specifically. So abstaining from drinking alcohol. So if you say intemperance, that would mean not sustaining from alcohol, which means that he was drinking heavily. Okay, so again, temperament is like your general disposition. The word temperance can mean your general affect, but in this older time, temperance and intemperance was used to describe like abstinence from drinking or actually over drinking, if that makes sense. That's why he says the fiend intemperance, meaning that he was drinking heavily. And then he says, I blush to confess it, almost as though he's embarrassed to admit that his behaviors are because of his overuse of alcohol at this time. So intemperance, we can say overuse of alcohol. And this is an older term, like I said, in ill-used would just mean used poorly mistreated. Same thing with maltreating. This prefix mal means bad or negative. So we can also say hurting or harming the animals, treating them poorly. And does anyone have an inference of what scruple means?
It's cozy, and based on like context clues, I feel like it means like he didn't hesitate or he didn't really care.
Yeah, that's great. So context clues saying that as I made no scruple of maltreating the rabbits, the dog, the monkey. So that's a great word. I would definitely say hesitate. And like Nkosi said, he didn't really care. There was no sense of doubt in his mind. It wasn't really significant to him. So we can say scruple means to hesitate or consider. I put consider. I might be able to move this up so you can see it better. Scruple, to hesitate, to consider. Did anyone see a line that reminded them of the telltale heart? Yes, that's exactly the sentence that I was thinking of. Thank you, Nicholas. So we can say that the narrator is drinking heavily and he refers to this as a disease. This disease is causing him to become violent with his wife and with his pets. Are we good to move on?
Yes.
Thank you. All right. Peevish. We did not define peevish. Does someone have an inference as to what they think that word means?
This is on, and I think it means like because he was becoming old, maybe like clumsy and like not as quick responding and smart.
That's a good inference. Did anyone else have a different idea? Yeah. So peevish means kind of like Destiny was saying, grumpy or easily irritated. Like if you've ever heard of a pet peeve. When you say my pet peeve is nails on chalkboard, that's something I can't stand, right? Or people say their pet peeve is people slurping their straws, right? So it's something that kind of irritates you. One night, returning home much intoxicated from one of my haunts about town, I fancied that the cat avoided my presence. I seized him when in his fright at my violence he inflicted a slight wound upon my hand with his teeth. The fury of a demon instantly possessed me. I knew myself no longer. My original soul seemed at once to take its flight from my body, and a more than fiendish malevolence, gin nurtured, thrilled every fibre of my frame. I took from my waistcoat pocket a penknife, opened it, grasped the poor beast by the throat, and deliberately cut one of its eyes from the socket. I blush, I burn, I shudder, while I pin the damnable atrocity. So what did he do? What can we put for our objective summary? Yeah, thank you. So we can say on this side that while intoxicated, the narrator cut one of the cat's eyes out. What are some of the words that you highlighted? Thank you. Did anyone else have any other words? What about malevolence? Did anyone highlight that? Thank you. All right, malevolence. So gin nurtured is not really a word if you were to look it up. It's more, technically it should have a hyphen here, is what we would do in our world today and say that it was nurtured by gin. So gin is a type of alcohol. So when he says gin nurtured, he means brought on by the alcohol. So we can say his behavior was due to the alcohol gin. So gin is a type of alcohol, and that's what he means by gin nurtured. And even in the side here, I'm going to put a hyphen to remind myself that those are technically two separate words, and Edgar Allan Poe just made the decision to combine them so that people would read it quickly together. Does anyone have an inference as to what malevolence could mean? That's a great inference in Kosi. So it does, if you ever think of like, it almost looks like the word, the prefix mal, meaning bad, and then the end, the root of it looks like violence. It's not violence, but it looks very similar. So it does mean evil or acts of cruelty. When reason returned with the morning, when I had slept off the fumes of the night's debauch, I experienced a sentiment half of horror, half of remorse for the crime of which I had been guilty. But it was, at best, a feeble and equivocal feeling, and the soul remained untouched. I again plunged into excess and soon drowned in wine all memory of the deed. I'm assuming we would highlight debauch. Was there anything else that we needed to highlight in that paragraph? Feeble. Thank you, Destiny. Thank you, Anjali. All right, so on this side we have feeble, so feeble means weak. So he's saying it's a weak feeling. And then debauch, if you've ever heard of the word like debauchery, it's essentially an excess, meaning a lot of something, in this case, drinking. So he had a night of a lot of drinking is what he's referring to in this. It's also kind of seen an excess of something. It's seen as like it has a negative connotation. And it's almost seen as like I'm trying to think of a way to explain it. Everybody makes mistakes. Thank you for muting your mic. Okay, we have a few minutes left. Again, debauch is an excess of something, a night of drinking, has a negative connotation, almost like something you're embarrassed of, is what I was trying to say. Again, I experienced a sentiment half of horror, half of remorse for the crime of which I had been guilty. Feeble and equivocal feeling. Does anyone have an inference as to what equivocal means? Yeah, thank you, Kieran. So it's like questionable, uncertain. So a lot of times you don't really hear the word equivocal, but you hear the word unequivocal. And people say, I unequivocally support this. And unequivocal means without doubt, without question, wholeheartedly, is when you hear the word unequivocal. But equivocal means with question, with uncertainty, with doubt. So we can say that after drinking, the narrator woke up and felt a small amount of remorse or guilt for his actions. All right, guys, once you have those notes, you can go ahead and log out of our meeting. Thank you for working hard today. Thank you especially to Anjali, Destiny, Kieran, Elijah, Sophia, Nkosi, and Nicholas. I appreciated hearing you guys today. If I did not get a chance to hear you today, please make sure that you respond tomorrow during our meeting. I hope you guys have a great day, and I will talk to you tomorrow. Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Have a great day.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you.